Amazing. Hi, I'm Jazz Bemke, and I use they them pronouns. And today I wanted to talk about the sort of intersection that I find in queerness with the relationship with Earth. I find that my queerness so lives in relationality with more than human kin, and I feel like those relationships are just so inherently queer, so inherently outside of the norm. Inherently fulfilling on this like deeper spiritual level that I feel like queerness really means to me. And I feel like connection with the earth is, such a big part of how I guess I like experience the fullness of what it is to be human. I feel like um, like every day I like to go and just sit on the earth and feel gravity. Gravity is obviously such a grounding force and really is such a feeling of this deep sense of being held. And obviously, as a queer person, gender queer person, it can be hard to always find that sense of belonging, of being held. And I feel like being on the earth, being in the fullness of feeling gravity, and feeling the relationship that I have with the earth, I always feel a sense of belonging and a sense of grounding and a sense of connection. And the earth feels so inherently queer to me. There are so many examples of, like animals in the world that we might call trans or gay or, these different things that we see, how gender and sexuality, the way that we conceptualize it in the Western world right now, is such a limited view to how it takes place, like not only within humans, but within more than human kin as well. And I think that feels, it always makes me feel like I really belong to the earth and to human, the global earth community, I guess. And I think in that as well, I think like that for me provides a lot of spirit connection, which also feels like deeply a part of my queerness. Obviously so many mainstream religions, Christianity, many of the other ones as well, have, given people a lot of trauma growing up, are obviously very anti the queer community in so many ways. And so I think a lot of folks feel very like there is not a spiritual home, and a lot of people, I think, want to feel connection to spirituality, and there are not so many outlets for that, or they feel limiting in different ways. And I was lucky enough to grow up in like a very liberal Christian church, but even that I felt like didn't really speak to my story of how I feel spirituality move through me, and it does feel so connected to queerness. Like for me, spirituality, sexuality, politics all feel like kind of different threads of the same cloth or something, that they, I really draw a lot from Audre Lorde's work and like the power of the erotic, and how the personal and the political and the erotic and the spiritual are all really truly woven together. And that really is how queerness feels for me. It doesn't feel like political struggle for queer rights is separate from a play party that might go to, is separate from dancing in the trees and with the river. Like they all really feel like this fluid experience of like the magic of what it is to like live outside of the norm, and to really be fully embodied. I think that's such a gift of queerness, is that you get the chance to be so fully embodied in who you are. And I think that is just like not in how you dress or who you fuck or whatever, but it's really in like how are you really living outside of colonial norms, of mainstream norms, of heteronormativity, monogamy normativity, all of these different ways. And I think the more deeply that I again connect, I think through like earth spirituality, the more support and the more freedom and the more grounding I feel to like really fully be embodied. And I think that for me is so much of why, you know, I feel like for me the conversation is less of like, obviously, you know, is less about like how do we bring queer people to this already existing, to me feels like very linear, boxed in, you know, white supremacist table, and how do we like explode the table and have queerness be a way of that like expansion and explosion. And like queerness has really led me into that kind of like unsettling work, and how that feels like so much a part of who I am.